In the beating heart of Kigali, where the sun rests gently on terracotta rooftops and children's laughter echoes through winding alleys, life blooms with color, rhythm, and survival. The city pulses with markets alive with movement, women in bright kitenge fabrics bargaining with vendors, and motorbikes weaving through the noise. But in this symphony of everyday life, a girl named Amani remains invisible to most. Amani, a 17-year-old homeless girl with deep brown skin, short tightly coiled black hair, and large almond-shaped eyes, sits quietly under a mango tree near the old city bus terminal. Her clothes are mismatched and torn, a faded red shirt and frayed grey skirt, but her dignity remains untouched. In her hands, she holds a stub of charcoal and sheets of torn cardboard. With each stroke, she sketches the faces of strangers who pass by, capturing emotion with the grace of someone who sees more than others do. Passers-by rarely glance in her direction. Some throw coins. Most ignore her. Yet she draws them all, mothers carrying baskets, shoeless children chasing wheels, men with tired eyes and worn sandals. Her world is art. It is the only thing that speaks back to her, the only thing that makes her feel seen. One afternoon, as the golden light of Kigali's sun begins to soften, Teo appears. He walks with calm steps and a gentle presence that seems strangely out of place in the dusty, bustling street. Teo, a 19-year-old boy with a smooth brown complexion, medium-length curly hair tucked under a beige cap, wearing a light blue shirt and brown trousers, stops not out of pity, but curiosity. He watches Amani draw in silence, his dark hazel eyes focused not on the sketch, but on the girl behind it. "You draw with your soul," he says, finally breaking the silence. His voice is soft, but steady, like the kind of voice you trust without needing a reason. Startled, Amani looks up. She's used to being talked at, not spoken to. Her almond eyes study him carefully. There's something different about this boy. He doesn't look rich, his shirt is clean but faded, and his sandals are dust-covered. But his posture, his words, the quiet confidence, they feel royal even if he doesn't wear gold. "What's your name?" he asks again, smiling gently. "Amani," she replies softly. "And you?" "Just Teo," he answers, sitting on the edge of the stone curb beside her. "A simple boy who likes art, and people like you." She doesn't smile yet. Trust comes slowly for those who have been forgotten. But there's warmth in his voice. Not the warmth of charity, the warmth of someone who sees her. As the afternoon sun slips lower, they talk. He asks about her sketches, who they are, why she draws them. She asks nothing in return. Not where he lives, not what he does. It's enough that someone sat with her, just to listen. Behind them, Kigali hums with life. But in this small corner, under this old mango tree, two different worlds begin to intertwine. The following morning, the city of Kigali awoke with its usual rhythm, roosters crowing, market stalls opening, and the smell of fresh mandazi wafting through the air. But Teo, the same boy who had sat quietly under the mango tree, had already disappeared into a different world. Beyond the crowded markets and narrow alleys, nestled in the green hills, stood a grand but modest-looking estate with a tall iron gate. Behind its traditional clay walls trimmed in gold, a quiet luxury breathed through every corner. This was not a place for show. It was a sanctuary, a royal home disguised in humility. Teo now walked through the halls of his home dressed in a clean white tunic with gold embroidery, his cap replaced with a simple beaded crown reserved for the prince in private. Servants bowed as he passed, but he gave each one a smile, greeting them by name. He had no interest in being worshipped, only in being real. At the dining hall, Queen Mother Nyasha, a 52-year-old regal woman with dark bronze skin, long braided silver hair wrapped in a silk blue headscarf, and piercing almond eyes, sat upright, her hands resting gently on a carved wooden cane. She wore a long navy boo-boo dress with gold trimming, her demeanor calm but commanding. "Teo, you disappeared again this morning," she said, her voice warm yet expectant. "Where were you, my son?" Teo, still the same calm spirit, took a seat across from her. "With someone special," he answered. Her eyebrow lifted slightly. "Special?" "She has nothing, mother. No family. No home. But she carries herself with more grace than I've seen at any royal table." Queen Mother Nyasha didn't interrupt. She studied her son. "And does she know who you are?" Not yet. I want her to know me first. Not the prince. Just the boy who sat beside her and listened. Queen Mother Nyasha nodded slowly. There was silence between them, the kind that holds understanding deeper than words. Later that day, Teo stepped into the palace library, a quiet room filled with ancient books and art pieces from across generations. There, Bakery, the 23-year-old royal advisor with golden brown skin, short black dreadlocks pulled into a neat bun, and round glasses, waited beside a large wooden table. He wore a dark green tunic and beige trousers, his eyes intelligent, his stance sharp. "You've been visiting the city again," Bakery said without looking up. "Yes," replied Teo, pulling out a chair. "Is it wise, Your Highness?" Teo looked out the window. "The people are real. Out there, I am not a prince. I am human. That's what matters." Bakery shook his head slightly but said no more. He had served the royal family since childhood. And although he sometimes worried, he admired Teo's heart, a prince who chose to walk beside his people rather than above them. That evening, Teo stood on the palace balcony. The sun was dipping below the horizon. He held the red thread bracelet in his hand, the one he had given to Amani. In that quiet moment, he whispered a promise to himself. "She will know the truth one day. But only when she sees me, not my title." Far away under the same sky, Amani sat alone under the mango tree, staring at the spot where Teo had sat today. She held the red bracelet close to her chest, smiling softly. The following day was clouded with gentle overcast skies. The streets of Kigali bustled with familiar energy, motorcycles weaving through alleys, women carrying baskets of bananas on their heads, and children playing barefoot in the dust. But for Amani, this day felt different. She sat beneath the mango tree again, her usual spot. She had skipped breakfast, as always, but her hunger was softened by something new, hope. Her fingers touched the red bracelet around her wrist, a quiet reminder of the boy who had listened. Then, suddenly, a familiar voice echoed from nearby. "You came back." It was Teo, no crown today. No royal robe. Just the boy again. Amani looked up and smiled, her eyes lighting up. "You remembered where I was." "Hard to forget," he replied, taking a seat beside her once again. "You made this tree special." For a while, they said nothing, simply watching the people pass. There was no pressure, no awkwardness, just two souls sharing silence. Then, Amani turned to him. "Why do you talk to me?" Teo paused. "Because you're real. You see the world as it is. And still, you smile. That's rare." Amani looked away shyly, playing with the frayed edges of her skirt. "Most people look at me like I'm dirt." "Then they are blind," Teo said softly. They laughed, not loudly, but gently. It was the kind of laugh that comes when walls begin to crumble. For the next hour, they spoke of little things, of the rain, the mangoes, the stray cats that wandered near the tree. Then, the conversation deepened. "Where do you sleep?" asked Teo. Amani hesitated, then answered, "Behind the bus terminal. There's an old bench. It's broken, but it keeps me off the ground." Teo's chest tightened. The thought of her alone at night haunted him. "And food?" he asked. "I wait near the cafe. Sometimes the cook gives me the leftovers." Teo looked down. His fists clenched. But he remained calm. "You deserve better," he whispered. Amani tilted her head. "You talk like someone who could change that." He smiled faintly. "Maybe one day." As the sun peeked through the clouds, Teo reached into his bag and pulled out a wrapped sandwich and a sealed bottle of water. "Here. For now." Amani's eyes widened. "For me?" "You saved it," he said. "With your story." She took it gently, eyes misty. "Thank you." They sat a little longer, the air around them calm and sacred. In that moment, status didn't matter. Clothing didn't matter. It was simply a boy and a girl, two hearts growing closer under a tree in a city that barely noticed. And though Amani still didn't know the truth about who he really was, Teo was more certain than ever she would be the one to see him for what he truly was, with or without the crown. The week rolled on like a gentle tide. Every afternoon, just after the sun had passed its peak, Teo returned to the mango tree. And every day, he found her. Amani was always there waiting, her fingers wrapped gently around the red bracelet he'd given her, her eyes lighting up at the sight of him. They shared everything: jokes, small dreams, stories from their childhood. But not everything had been revealed. Especially not Teo's truth. You see, behind his simple appearance, Teo was royalty. The only son of King Baraka, ruler of one of the most respected kingdoms in Rwanda's eastern hills. His family lived in a grand estate, hidden among the lush hills beyond Kigali, guarded by tradition, ceremony, and secrets. This particular morning, Teo didn't meet Amani under the mango tree. He had been summoned to attend a royal meeting. At the palace gate stood tall golden arches engraved with cultural symbols. Guards dressed in red and gold nodded as Teo, still in his simple clothes, entered. Inside, the marble floors gleamed under the soft light of chandeliers made from handmade beads. His mother, Queen Zahora, the graceful 45-year-old woman with almond brown skin, long braided black hair, high cheekbones, and a commanding yet warm presence, wearing a flowing green and gold robe, sat near the throne, her gaze stern. "Teo, where have you been disappearing to every day?" she asked, her voice calm but firm. "To the city," he replied, trying to remain vague. "Why?" she insisted. "To learn. To see the world differently. Not just from behind the palace walls." King Baraka entered slowly. "Your heart is noble," he said. "But you are our heir. Your future must be guarded." Teo clenched his fists behind his back. "I've met someone," he said. His mother's eyes narrowed. "A girl?" He nodded. "She is kind. Strong. She lives on the street. But she has more dignity than most people I've ever met." There was silence in the hall. The queen lowered her gaze, thinking. The king stepped forward. "A homeless girl?" he asked. "What is her name?" "Amani." The king's brow furrowed, not out of anger, but concern. "You would risk your title for her?" "I would risk more," Teo said. The queen sighed. "Bring her. Let us meet her. But if she is to enter this world, she must be tested." Teo bowed, hiding the relief spreading in his chest. Later that day, Teo returned to the mango tree. Amani was there, as always, her feet dusty, her eyes filled with hope. "You didn't come this morning," she said softly. "I had to face my world," Teo answered. She tilted her head. "Your world?" He stepped closer. "I need to tell you something. I haven't been completely honest with you." Her face fell slightly, uncertain. "I'm not just some boy who walks the streets. I'm the son of a king. A prince." Amani blinked, unsure whether to laugh or cry. "You're joking." "No. And I want you to meet them, my parents. But it won't be easy. They come from a world you've never seen." There was a long pause. Then Amani stood slowly, eyes narrowed in disbelief. "Why would you bring someone like me into a place like that?" "Because you're the only person who sees me for who I really am." Amani looked away. Her world, harsh, real, painful, was crashing into one she never imagined entering. But then, she touched the red bracelet on her wrist. "Okay," she whispered. "I'll go." The next morning, the sky over Kigali was painted in soft pinks and oranges. A gentle breeze swept through the hills as Amani, still wearing her faded red shirt and frayed grey skirt, stood at the edge of the palace gates. Beside her was Teo dressed in his usual cream shirt and faded jeans. His hand gently held hers, giving her strength. The palace loomed before them, towering, regal, intimidating. "Are you ready?" asked Teo, his voice soft. Amani nodded, though her heart raced. "I don't think I've ever been more nervous." "Just be yourself. That's what matters." As the guards opened the grand wooden gates, they stepped through. Inside, the royal estate was lush with manicured gardens, marble paths, and fountains shaped like animals from Rwandan folklore. Servants paused as they walked by, murmuring under their breath. Amani could feel their eyes judging, measuring. In the main hall, Queen Zahora sat gracefully on her throne. Her sharp gaze was unreadable. Beside her stood King Baraka, still in his golden tunic and royal beads. He gave a slight nod of acknowledgement. As Amani approached, she bowed slightly. "My name is Amani. Thank you for allowing me to be here." The queen gestured to a seat across from her. "Sit, child." She obeyed. There was a silence that hung heavy in the room. "Do you know what it means to live in royalty?" asked Queen Zahora. "No, Your Majesty. I don't," Amani replied, her voice steady despite her nerves. "But I know what it means to survive with nothing. And still choose to be kind." The queen raised an eyebrow. "And what do you think love means to a prince?" Amani hesitated. "The same as it means to anyone. To feel safe. Seen. To be valued beyond what you wear or where you come from." The queen studied her, then rose. "Follow me." They walked through a corridor lined with portraits of former rulers, warriors, scholars, queens in silk robes. At the end of the corridor was a quiet garden. In the center of the garden sat an elderly woman weaving a mat, Grandmother Imara, the 75-year-old woman with dark cocoa skin, snow-white short curls, wrinkled but vibrant eyes, wearing a pale yellow wrap dress. "Grandmother Imara," said the queen, "this is Amani. She claims to love my son. Will you test her?" The old woman smiled gently and patted the seat beside her. "Come, child. Help me weave." Amani knelt without hesitation and took the straw in her hands. They sat for hours, weaving in silence. The only sound was birdsong and wind through the trees. Occasionally, Grandmother Imara would glance at her fingers, rough from survival, but delicate in movement. After a while, the old woman spoke. "She is honest. Her heart is steady. She listens more than she speaks. She will do." The queen nodded. But she wasn't done. Back in the palace, Amani was brought before a panel of advisors. They questioned her about her past, her values, her future dreams. Though her clothes were worn and her life hard, her voice never wavered. When the queen returned to her throne, she looked directly at her son. "She has passed every test. Not because she knows our world, but because she has the heart to carry its weight." Teo stepped forward, joy barely contained. Amani looked at him, unsure if she could believe this moment was real. "Does this mean?" The queen nodded. "You are welcome here, Amani." Tears welled in Amani's eyes as she bowed. From the streets of struggle to the heart of a palace, her journey had begun. A week had passed since the queen's approval. The palace, usually serene and stately, was now alive with music, color, and preparations. Banners of gold and red danced in the wind, and drummers beat rhythms that echoed across the valleys. The people of Kigali had gathered around the royal gates, murmuring with excitement. Inside the palace, Amani stood before a tall mirror. But today, she no longer wore her faded red shirt and frayed gray skirt. Instead, she was adorned in a royal indigo gown embroidered with silver thread, her hair brushed and crowned with a delicate golden circlet shaped like flower petals. Her expression was still humble, but a radiant glow shone from her face. Grandmother Imara entered the room with a slow, graceful step. "Child," said Grandmother Imara, her voice like a soft breeze, "you wear royalty as though you were born for it." Amani smiled gently. "I still feel like the girl who slept in doorways." "Then you are exactly what this kingdom needs," whispered the old woman. Meanwhile, in the palace courtyard, Teo, now dressed in a royal white tunic with woven bronze patterns, paced with a mixture of joy and nerves. He turned as Queen Zahora approached him. "You chose her," said Queen Zahora. "Now stand tall beside her." Soon, the royal trumpet sounded. The gates to the courtyard opened wide, and Amani walked slowly down a path covered in fresh flower petals. The crowd was silent, awestruck. Murmurs spread from lips to hearts. "She's beautiful. She's the one who fed the orphans." At the altar beneath a canopy of woven gold leaves, King Baraka stood with arms wide, ready to bless the ceremony. Teo stepped forward, his eyes never leaving Amani. When she reached him, he took her hands. "You were always my queen," whispered Teo. "And you were always my miracle," replied Amani. King Baraka spoke with deep authority. "Love that is tested is love that endures. Today, we do not crown a beggar girl. We crown a heart that sees beyond power, beyond riches." He placed a second crown, smaller and golden, atop Amani's head. The crowd erupted into cheers. Children clapped, elders wept, and drummers lifted the rhythm into a full celebration. Flowers rained from balconies, and the kingdom welcomed their new princess not with pomp, but with pure, human joy. That evening, as the stars shimmered across the Rwandan sky, Amani and Teo danced together, surrounded by laughter, food, and stories of their journey. Her hands rested in his, and their hearts beat not in fear, but in peace. She had come from nothing and gained everything. In the heart of Kigali, this story reminds us that true worth is not found in riches or royal blood, but in the choices we make and the love we give. Amani showed that kindness and resilience can shine brighter than any crown. Despite living without a home, she gave what little she had to others, never asking for anything in return. Teo could have chosen a princess from noble birth. Instead, he chose to look with his heart, not his eyes. And when he found love in the streets, he brought it into the palace. This tale teaches that love is not about status, beauty, or power. It is about truth, compassion, and seeing beyond appearances. When we honor people for who they are, not where they come from, we build a kingdom where everyone has value. Every act of kindness is a seed of royalty. And every heart, no matter how humble, can wear a crown.